tea in the afternoon for you, is it?
Yes. All right, you guys, I am super excited because you know that one of my things is talking about prehab and seeing a physical therapist and getting someone to actually look at your movements so that we can help prevent injuries. And on Instagram, I happened to see Grace come up and was looking at some of her posts, and I just thought, okay, she's got like the right mindset and she talks about things in a way that I think is really useful. So I am super excited to have her here with us today. I'm going to let Grace tell you a little bit more about herself, and then we'll actually dive into some of the things that you guys listed when I asked in advance if you had any specific areas you wanted to talk about. So please tell us more about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here talking to you today from Melbourne, Australia. A little bit about me. As you know, my name is Grace, and I've got a little online business called She Runs Physio that I've recently started, and I'm really, really enjoying sort of using to educate as many people as I can about running related injuries and rehab and things like that that we can that physios or physical therapists can help you with. So you might be able to hear that my accent is quite strong. And so I'm not from Australia, I'm actually from New Zealand. Those of you who have been to New Zealand, you might be able to hear the difference between the Australian and the New Zealand accent. But otherwise, I think apparently they can sound quite similar. So yeah, if there's anything that you can't understand, I completely understand with the accent. So just let me know and I can try and explain a little bit more. A little bit, oh, do you want me to keep going? Yeah.
Go ahead.
A little bit more about me. I'm a runner, obviously. I'd be silly not to be. I love running. I used to run competitively as a teenager and into my early 20s before sort of becoming a physical, becoming a physical therapist and then continuing to run, but I guess not so competitively, more sort of focusing my energy on helping other runners return to running and sort of keep people running as much as possible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I think it helps when someone is a runner because you understand the runner brain a little better. And especially when we start asking questions like, can I keep running? How soon can I start running?
That is exactly right. It's called the runner's crisis or identity crisis, I think. When someone can't run, it is the end of the world. And I completely get that because I've been there myself hundreds of times, or maybe not hundreds, but a lot. And yeah, it's really hard. And I love sort of being able to let someone know that I know exactly how they're feeling and work with them to try and keep them running as much as possible, really, because interestingly, most running injuries, you can keep running through it. And we've just got to sort of find a way to get that balance right and keep you going. So yeah. It's really good.
Awesome. I'm going to share links where you guys can connect with Grace. We are going to start off with a couple of the things that you guys listed repeatedly, knees and glutes. So I'm going to let you take it away on those.
Perfect. So the first question that everyone had for me was, why do my knees make so much noise? And I did have a little laugh at that one because I get asked that so many times in my week as well. I often have patients book in to see me with no pain, no nothing. They're just so worried about their noisy knees. And I just have to sit them down and actually say, do you know what? Your knees are just noisy. And that unfortunately, some people just have noisy knees. And obviously we have a look and we make sure that there isn't anything else going on. But generally, when we're thinking about noisy knees, they're actually just that. The main thing, though, that we are trying to sort of figure out when someone does have those noisy knees is to figure out whether that pain or that noise is physiological and just a noise, or whether it's coming from something more pathological or sort of injury related. And that's the main thing that we have to figure out to make sure that we're treating that properly. And so
I think knees are so touchy because we still have people around us constantly saying things like running is bad for your knees. So I feel like we are just hyper aware of like anything that happens around the knee, and it freaks us out.
yeah, that's so fair enough. Your knees take so much slack during a run. There's studies out there to show that your knees, or your lower limb in general, takes 9 times your body weight every single time you hit the ground, and that is a lot. If you think about, you go for a 1-hour run, how many times your foot hits the ground, you can imagine how much load and stress is going through your joints, and particularly your knees, because your knees are in between your hip and your ankle. So they're quite vulnerable. They need to be very stable and very strong to be able to sort of withstand those forces. But interesting fact, if I don't know if any of you have read this, but there's lots of research that came out in the last 5 years or so to say that running does not necessarily cause arthritis. In fact, it may even prevent it. So those
I included that in my book.
Oh,
yes.
I need to read the book. Well, yeah, perfect. So we're on the same page, because, we've all got those grandparents that are like, oh, you shouldn't be running because, you're going to end up with knee replacements and hip replacements and all sorts, but you can actually tell them that's not necessarily true. In fact, we might be preventing it. The main thing, though, that I have to add in there is that if you're running with poor biomechanics or poor stability in the knee, and there's excess forces through the joint, then absolutely you can irritate that joint and cause degeneration or inflammation. But otherwise, the actual impact is not known to cause it. So that's awesome. So we can stop worrying about that. I get a lot of people ask me what actually is the noise, though. So if I'm saying that it's nothing to worry about, why are their knees so noisy? And it's actually just lots of tiny, tiny little bubbles in the synovial fluid of the knee joint, which is like the lubrication of the knee joint. And it's just those little tiny bubbles popping when the knee bends back and forth. Like
dehydration can also cause some of the noises we hear sometimes. Is that right?
Yeah, so if the joint's not as lubricated as it should be, because the person may be dehydrated or sort of lacking some fluid around that area, then absolutely that could contribute. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So the second one you guys asked about, glutes, hips, all of that, that's actually what helps keep these knees feeling good. So I was glad you guys asked.
That's right. I was too, because I thought these topics actually go really well together. If anyone's experienced patellofemoral pain syndrome or runner's knee or ITB pain, which I know you have, Amanda, yes, you'll know that most of the time when you see a physical therapist, we're not actually even treating your knee, we're actually treating your hip and your glutes and working on the stability there, because it's all interrelated. So often I won't even touch someone's knee really, other than to tell them that yes, your knee is sore. Then we move to the glutes. So when it comes to glutes, how much sort of emphasis did you put on the glutes when you did your rehab for your ITB, Amanda?
Yeah, so I mean, glutes, hips, core, like that was it. Like I never once did anything that was like knee specific or IT band. Like it was like, nope, you need to do more lunges. You need to move in different ways. You need to figure out how to do a glute bridge where you actually engage your glutes and don't just let your legs do the work.
That's exactly right. And we get a lot of people come in to the clinic and they're like, my glutes are strong. I don't need to work on my glutes. That's not the issue. And I get them to lie on their side and lift their leg up, and I literally push it down with my finger and go, your glutes are not strong. You've been using other muscles in your legs to compensate all this time. Your bum's basically been going along for a ride for the last however long, and we really need to build on that strength to keep your legs stable with the run. So you've got obviously lots and lots and lots of different glute muscles, and people do tend to get confused, I think, about which ones they should be strengthening and which ones they should be putting their focus on. And the answer to that is quite difficult because it does depend on where the weakness is or where the compensation is. But generally, when it comes to running and knees, the main muscles that we're wanting to strengthen are the glute max, which is your main big buttock muscle. That's the muscle that's involved in power, in push off, so that hip extension part of the running stride, and your gluteus medius, or some of your deeper glute muscles that help to control and stop your knee from dropping in whenever you hit the ground. You've probably all seen pictures of people hitting the ground and their knee just drops in so much, and that's one of the big contributing factors to knee pain. So we really want to try and correct that, and by doing that, we're strengthening the gluteus medius, or the side glutes, so the muscles on the side of your hip. And one of the biggest things that I see people doing is they try and they're doing the right exercise. They're doing their, they're standing on one leg, doing their single leg squats. They're doing their single leg arabesque exercises, or even their side lying clamshells. I don't know if you call them that in the States. But and then I say, where do you feel that? And they're pointing to their calf or their inner thigh or their back, or somewhere that's not actually the side of the hip or the glute. And that's the big thing that we've got to get right when it comes to strengthening. And once you do get that right, actually you'll find that your glutes will wake up really quickly and start doing their job, which is
there
exciting.
any sort of cue that someone could use if they're doing, say, the clamshell or a hip bridge or something, to know that their glutes are activated?
Yeah, so I would tend to get someone to put their hand on their hip bone, so the side hip bone, sort of on the side of your leg. Put your hand there and then move about 2 inches back, so towards your bum crack, basically.
Okay.
That is where you should be feeling it. And if you're not feeling it there, then you're probably not feeling it in the right place. If you're only feeling it really low down in your buttocks, or you might only be feeling it, sort of to the front, slightly to the front of that hip bone, which is a muscle called your TFL, then you're probably not getting that right spot. So it's, find that side hip bone, and then approximately 2 inches back from that, that's where you really want to be feeling that burn. When it comes to cues when you're actually doing the exercise, a clamshell, for example, I find if someone really can't get the muscle activated, the first thing I would do is change their leg positioning. So often their knees or their hips are too far bent, they're sort of too curled up, or they're not far enough back into hip extension. So we need to sort of shift the legs and change the positioning. The other thing with the clamshell is making sure that the hips are actually staying sort of stacked one on top of the other. If you're doing your clamshell and you're lifting your leg up and your hips and your body are rolling backwards, then you're cheating, unfortunately. And then last but not least, I would add in a heel squeeze. So I would get people to squeeze their heels together when they do the clamshell, and that helps to get a bit of that external rotator activation going there as well. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. I could see that with the squeeze, because you have to engage something to keep those feet together while your knees are going. So yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. And then you can challenge yourself. You can add a band. Some people tell me that they can't feel it in their glutes, but it's because they're actually not as weak as they think they are there, and we need to sort of get them up to 50 reps before they're even feeling it in the right place. So adding resistance with a band, or lifting your feet up so that your knees are lower, then your feet, and then going will sort of mean that you're working through a larger range of motion, which will activate the glutes a little bit more as well. But we're talking a lot about the clamshell. I actually think the more you can do your glute strengthening exercises in a functional weight-bearing position, the better, because that's really where you need your glutes working. You don't need your glutes working lying down on your side. That does not really, not really going to carry over to running as much as if we can teach those muscles to work when you're actually standing, and you have that weight through your legs, and even better if you're doing it in single leg, because that's even more similar to running. So something just to think about when you are doing your exercises, about why you're actually doing that particular exercise and what it's going to do for you with your running.
I love that. So like where we're kind of standing on one leg and we bend down, that one's good. Do you have other standing that you really like?
Yes. So standing on one leg and bending down, awesome. Again, should feel it in that same spot. So that's what we're aiming for. When you're doing that exercise, weight through your heel as much as you can, making sure that you're keeping your big toe flat on the ground. Too many people, their big toe is sort of coming up and down off the ground, and it just means they're not using their foot muscles properly, which is really important. So big toe and heel, and then actually just squeezing that glute. We're sort of teaching yourself to squeeze that buttock is really good. Other exercises in standing would be things like the crab walk, which a lot of people might know. You sort of stand, you're bent, your knees are bent very slightly. You might have a band around your legs, and then you're sort of sidestepping across the room like a crab. I actually prefer people, I call it the penguin walk or the penguin waddle instead of the crab walk, to do this with their legs straight.
Oh my gosh, that's what I do.
Perfect. You're onto it. You're doing the penguin walk. And the reason why is because you don't run bent over. Like, again, you can't sort of teach your bum muscles to work bent over and then expect them to work when you're upright. It's just sort of learn bad habits. So straight legs, you're onto it, Amanda. Penguin walks.
That's so funny. Okay, here. I'll step back and take my headphones out for a second to show you guys what we mean by that. I don't have a band, but I'll give you the idea.
Perfect. Sorry, I could have also done that. You're in your running gear. Even better. So that's the crab walk. No, you don't run like that. Penguin walk. Much better. And it's sort of like a bit of a waddle.
Yes, so that's me imitating having a band. So side to side, forward, and back. So yes.
Yes. Yeah, perfect. And then what else would I suggest in standing? Obviously, any weighted exercise is really good. So even just a simple squat, to be honest, is really beneficial for running. But if we're thinking single leg, we're moving more to things like sort of lunges or step ups, with a similar sort of focus of trying to get that glute activated during that movement, and really sort of combining it with the use of lots of different muscles to make it really functional from there.
How many days a week do you sort of tell people they need to be working hips and glutes if they're running, say, 5 days a week?
If you're running 5 days a week, I would say that, like, if you were doing a rehab program or even a prehab program, like a prevention, which is even better, three times a week would be what I would suggest. Some people, though, prefer to do their glute activation exercises before each run, which I also am quite happy with. I think, if they would prefer to spend 2 or 3 minutes before each run doing their glute exercises, and that's going to sort of be easier for them time-wise, then that's great as well, because they go into that run with those muscles pre-activated and hopefully reduce injury.
That's a lot of what I recommend, so that there's less excuses. It's just make it part of your warm-up, and then it's just part of a routine rather than, oh, I keep meaning to do that, and then you sort of forget. So I'm like, you already know you're going to run, you know, you need to warm up. So if you can pick like 2 or 3 and keep like, maybe change them each day, like, and then next week you do the same ones every day or whatever. But yeah, I love that tip.
I agree. I think I just sort of say, if you don't do your exercises, you're not allowed to run, and they will do their exercises. That's how you get a runner. Tell them they can't run. Yeah.
Yes. When I had knee surgery 2 years ago, and really and truly, the time that I would have spent running, I spent on rehab, because I was like, I want to run as soon as I can. So I will just keep using that time. And it got me back out there so much faster than anyone expected, because I wasn't like whining about rehab. It was just, this is what I need to do to get to do what I want to do. So, yeah.
That's right. And you probably came back better than you were before, because you had that sort of reason to want to work on those sorts of things that you might not have done if you hadn't have had been through the surgery or been through that.
Yeah. The things I started doing before surgery were a large reason I came back fast too. And it was things that I thought I was so good with, like hips and core and glutes. And I mean, the injury could not have been prevented. It was a trampoline thing. But the things I additionally started doing once I realized there was an issue made me realize, okay, there was more I could have been doing before, but like when you're not injured, it becomes real easy to let things slide. And so that's the other reason I like saying make it part of your warm up, so that you stop allowing yourself to sort of let those things slide off. Because once you've been injured, it can happen again, like as soon as you stop doing the right things.
Indeed, it can. Yes, and that's the cycle that people get into. Is they feel great, they feel sort of invincible almost with their running, and so they just stop all of that and just focus on the running, which is great. But yeah, better to focus on the prehab and avoid injuries.
Yeah,
if you can.
Okay. We have a couple more minutes here. If anyone has a specific question that we haven't talked about, feel free to drop it. I know you guys have been listening quietly and patiently, as you always do. And this will stay up in the group in case there are questions later too. But I'll give you guys a second. And like I said, I will make sure that I share links so that you can follow Grace and see the information she's posting. Like I said, I love the way she talks about movement and the tips that I have already seen her give. So I think you guys will get a lot from those as well, sort of consistently, so that we can all keep doing better things.
Thanks, Amanda. I've got some videos on my Instagram that I put up recently for some glute exercises. So if you're wanting some examples of those, they're up there as well. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. I don't see any live questions coming in from you guys, probably because you were able to tell me in advance exactly what you wanted to hear about, which works out well. So I want to say thank you so much for taking time to chat with us. And I hope this, guys, helped you understand your knees a little bit better and think a little bit more about what to do with those glutes. Anything else you want to leave us with?
No, don't worry about your noisy knees. If they're not painful, pop some headphones in, turn your music up, and just don't listen to them. But yeah, if you are worried, absolutely seek some advice from a physical therapist or from your coach, Amanda, to sort of point you in the right direction, because most of the time everything is quite an easy fix, and we can keep you running through the process. So yeah, it was really great to talk to you all, and I hope to see some of you one day soon when we are allowed to travel again.
I know. Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Grace.
Thanks, Amanda. See you later.